back. You're watching Today, and South Africa's youth unemployment rate sits at a staggering 46% in the age range of between 15 to 34 years old. Now, young people are being encouraged to consider the entrepreneurship route. One organization has taken up the challenge to teach township youth the ins and outs of what to export and import when it comes to business. At least 4,000 of them have benefited from this program so far. To discuss this further, we're joined by Serame Jacobs from Noaves International Freight. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Tell us a little bit about the business and why you thought it was so important to embark on this journey and bring other young people along with you.
Thank you, Rofhiwa. The interesting thing about this industry is that it's not very known to the people in the township. But the thing is, this is on a global scale. So when you are active in the global economy, you are therefore able to impact people which are not only close to you, but who are vastly around, you know. So the industry is called freight forwarding, and it deals a lot about movement of goods. Like, as you know, that trading is something that happens in each and every continent. So I think it's very beneficial that the people from disadvantaged areas get to know about this and get to be active in it.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that you have found as you introduce the freight forwarding to these communities and educating them about the opportunities that could arise from it?
Yes. You know, the basic thing like the rand fluctuating or the currencies going up and down, people do not understand how it affects them at the grassroots level. You know, the political and the social space in which where trade is affected by the currencies fluctuating up and down. It affects simple things like transportation, like groceries, like your general day-to-day living. So it's very important that we teach people so that they know that when they engage in this space, they are able to make sure that they know and they see how the currencies actually affect them.
Yeah, so logistics and freight industry, as you talk about, is quite important. I actually attended the BRICS Summit last week, and it was a huge thing, logistics and the entire value chain of getting goods and services across the different parts of the country. The big thing, though, is that the infrastructure is not always conducive. So as someone operating in this field, how do you maneuver some of those challenges?
You know, the nice thing about knowing which area you're going to, you can actually plan for it. Like we know in Africa, there's a lot of infrastructural problems, like you said. So when you know that you're going to an area which is rubble or it's not very nicely, you can actually take vehicles that are suited for that place, you know? So, but as you're seeing that the African leaders are actually becoming active in these spaces, they are therefore able to make sure that they put us, the youth, to engage with them so that we assist them in order to prepare what's to come.
Yeah. And what about your journey? How were you able to break into the market? It is a saturated one, especially because our railway systems are not great. So more and more people are going into road freight, the sector there. So your journey and how you were able to break into that market.
You know, honestly, Rofhiwa, I got into the industry by sheer luck. You know, sometimes you can say right place, right time. You know, I'm a person who honestly absorbs things very easily. So I had a family of mine who was working, a relative of mine who was working in this industry, and they just invited me to come and assist them, just to be a general worker where I was pushing boxes and doing simple work, you know. And as I got into the space, I actually saw the economy or the importance behind just pushing the boxes. I actually saw that the planes and and the ships that are moving, you know, and you were speaking about road freight, that the trucks are moving in continental, international, you know. Then I started falling in love with this, and I started seeing that if I can engage in this space, I can learn something that I can give it back to the township. Like, I was born and raised in Soweto. So in Soweto, we don't even know how a container arrives into the country, how goods move into the continent. You know, as I got deeper into it, I actually started seeing that if I can have this skill and I can give it to that child in the township to know that there is a world out there that they can engage in.
I mean, you've also been fortunate enough to benefit from partnerships that you've created with provincial government and related stakeholders. How important are those in growing a youth-led business in South Africa at the moment?
Yes. Remember, these these stakeholders have the database where they have the number of learners which are actually coming to them and say, I need assistance with this. So it makes it easy for us to interact with them, and makes it easy for us to saturate who can I assist and who can I not assist, you know. But these cities have actually showed me that they really care about our people, you know, because they bring them face to face with us, because it's not very easy for us to reach them, you know. Like, for instance, if you go into the township and you see maybe a child who's maybe into drugs, or a child who's doing certain things, it's not very easy for you to engage with them at that level. But the city beautifully puts them in a database to say, people who want to do this, people who want to do call center, who want to do logistics, they kind of make it easy for me when I come through and I say, I'm in logistics, and they just say, here are people for logistics, and there's already interest there. The spark is already there.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask, the appetite.
Yes.
Are you finding that there's a healthy appetite for people to explore logistics as opposed to other interesting sectors that could be gaining momentum in the world that we live in?
Yes. The beautiful thing about the youth is that once you explain something and you unpack it to them clearly, and they see how it impacts and affects them, they actually jump on it. I've got two individuals, two kids that I said I'm mentoring. They actually teach me things technologically now. They actually tell me, you know what, sir, you need to do this app, make it do like this. You know, I'm like, okay, you know. So it's actually very beautiful to involve these people, because they are ahead of us when it comes to the technological landscape. Yeah.
So apart from the entrepreneurial journey and providing these developmental programs that you have been, you're also an author. And you've written some interesting work around, and I don't want to call it self-help, but it's more of how you go about bettering yourself, and just going on a journey that perhaps will ensure success. I mean, I haven't gone through all of it, but the bit that I did go through, I found it very interesting that you thought that that might be the way to go, using books to also educate people. How do you create that balance between what it is you do with the program, but also having the books to juxtapose what you're doing?
You know, there's a thing that they say, out of sight is out of mind. So my books were me being there when I'm not there. You know, it's a representation of me. It's an extension of me. And my book is therefore in a particular. Did you see how small it was? It's very concise.
It's quite it's a quick sit down for an hour, go through it, absorb it kind of read.
It was very deliberate. Because I've learned with a lot of motivational or self-improvement books that I've read is that they're very so big, you know, they're huge. So when you get into the middle, you kind of get lost into the gist of the book. So my book is very concise, that even if you want to go back, you can go back now. And it actually helps you to act now. Like I always tell people in my seminars, that my book is about acting now. If you're someone who's maybe overweight, or you're having weight problems, you're sitting on the chair, I want you to stand up now. If you're someone who says you want an opportunity in a particular sector, I want you to act now. So I give you the basics of how to survive. And
who's been your mentor with that? I mean, you're out there mentoring and teaching other people around the entrepreneurial journey and giving them, you know, that chutzpah, if you will, to go out and do something that they want to do but they haven't been able to do. Who have been your mentors along your journey?
Honestly, I've had a lot of mentors. I've had a lot of mentors. And now the beautiful thing about social media is you can actually pick someone online without even knowing them, you know, just by following their work, you know. I like guys like Richard Maponya, just to name a few, you know, how he started his business in Soweto. I'm a fan of his work. And what he did, he made sure that he built a legacy around the township. He never moved from it. So I'm someone who aspires to build someone like him.
Thank you so much for joining us in studio. Let's hope those that were listening are going to take something away from our conversation this afternoon. A very interesting one indeed. And don't